Hey everybody, Jay Schlansky here from the Fifth Trooper Network. I just want to take a moment to thank you for checking out this show. Did you know that over at thefifthtrooper.com we have tons of other content, including blogs, other podcasts, all kinds of stuff. In addition, if you want access to exclusive content, you can join us on patreon.com/thefifthtrooper and join at any level and you'll get access to exclusive blog articles, access to our private Discord, and much more. So please check us out, and thank you so much for all your support.
Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Mike.
Hey.
What's up?
Not much. Nice sunny day. Got a nice round of disc golf in.
AKA Frisbee golf.
Frisbee golf, if you're the maybe uninitiated.
I know they're not technically Frisbees, but
they're not. They're discs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a disc that you throw similarly to a Frisbee.
Yes. Yes, that's accurate.
Well, that sounds like fun. I have not been Frisbee golfing, disc golfing. I'm sorry, in many years, but it is always a good time. So.
Yeah, there's a course like a mile from my house and it's free. So
nice.
Yeah, it's fun. So.
Well, today is going to be more of like a tournament recap episode. We had 2 more tournaments this weekend. I'm sure there were more than 2, but there are 2 that we're aware of that people have been talking about, and that's Ironweld, which you can find likely a recap of some of the games / live stream on our YouTube.
Yep.
That would be the Fifth Trooper YouTube.
All of the I think the top 8 or whatever was streamed on day 2, and a random smattering of games for day 1, as is pretty normal for those ones.
Yep. So check that out. There was also the UK GT, which
not confusing at all.
Not confusing at all. That would be the UK Games Expo Grand Tournament for those that are not into acronyms. I guess technically the United Kingdom Games Expo Grand Tournament.
Yes.
Yes. That was also this past weekend, and that had some very well-known players in it, as obviously the UK community does. So we'll talk about that. We got to look, since that was the first official Grand Tournament, at the Grand Tournament prize support, which we'll talk about. and then Mike, you played some Yoda Clone Commandos, so we're gonna talk about that too.
Yeah, I got stuff to say, fam.
I am excited to hear about that as someone who I have a tournament at the end of June, and I'm trying to figure out whether to prioritize finishing my experimental droids or whether I should put together my clone commandos. So maybe you can try and talk me one way or the other on that.
Sure. Yeah.
But first, how about let's talk about Ironweld first, because I feel like this is the maybe least controversial is the wrong way to phrase this, but certainly the most
where you headed here, Kyle? Where you headed?
Yeah, I don't know where I'm headed.
Okay.
But this will be the easiest to talk about, let's put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, so that happened. That was in, gosh, where was Ironweld?
Ironweld was in Boston.
Boston.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
I think maybe technically somewhere
Wakefield,
outside
Maryland, Massachusetts.
Boston.
Yeah.
I assume Wakefield is like a suburb or something. Yeah.
It's called the Boston Hotel and Convention Center. So
yeah. So I'm
Anyway, that was won by Paul Jones of the Maple Syrup Mandos, which I assume that means he's Canadian. If I'm wrong about that, Paul Jones, let me know. But I don't feel like that's a leap based on the team name there.
Seems like a strong possibility, that's for sure.
Several other Canadians also did well this tournament. Jesse Gilbert Blech. I'm sorry if I just butchered your name. But he's French Canadian. I met him at Worlds.
I played him at Worlds.
Yeah. Very good player, running experimental droids. So we also have Nicholas Dandy Bouquet. Again, I'm terribly sorry for my horrible, likely French pronunciation. But other X-1 players, Trevelyan Goose, possibly also French Canadian, possibly also just butchered that name, and Anthony Bonomo. So congrats to those folks. But Paul Jones was running Dooku and a bunch of other stuff. I don't even know how to describe this list, Mike. What do
Uh,
you
So, Paul, if you're listening, man, first of all, congrats on your win. But I don't know what this list is. Like, so for our listeners at home, it is a T series tactical droid. Uh, Count Dooku with burst of speed, force choke, a force push, aggressive tactics. Two B1s with medical droids and no heavies. A Geonosian warrior unit with a sonic cannon warrior. Two B1s with E5Ss. A Black Sun Enforcer unit with the extra dude or the scattergun enforcer, the Vigo and impact grenades and intel, and then a Magna Guard unit. It's like 9 activations. I, I gotta assume he's like trying to abuse the one of scatter weapon in the Geonosian unit to like catch people kind of on unawares with Dooku's 3-pip to just like yank units across the board into positions that like the Black Sun or the Magna Guard can like exploit, or like they can use to like build an island for the Magna Guard and Dooku to like kind of live safely on as they kind of make their way across the board. That's the only way I can see this list working, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it, right? If you're playing against someone that does not have their own force user, you kind of yank a unit across the table. You don't
Mhm.
kill them. You just give them a nice warm hug with
Yep.
Dooku and the Magna Guards, and you just kind of push them slowly across the table towards your opponent's line.
Yeah.
Keep giving them a nice little hug, and then eventually Dooku and the Magnas are safely ensconced. Dooku also has burst, so sometimes on certain deployments with certain objectives, he can probably just get right in there.
Yeah.
Um,
Duke is pretty hardy in this list with two med droids
yeah.
and the Magna Guard, which is notable.
And the T series has a portable scanner too.
It does, yes.
So
So, I think Dooku is pretty healthy. But man, 230 points for that unit is a lot.
this is a lot.
That's
Yeah.
them's be Yoda prices, my friends.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Dooku. He's one of my favorite units in Legion. Um, yeah, that's a lot of points. I don't
Yeah,
know what else to
yeah.
say about it, but
Um,
obviously Paul made him work. So
I do think it's sort of interesting. I thought that we might see this as time went on, but he's playing the Sith will rule without Asajj, which I actually think is defensible. And I definitely thought that that might, if Dooku ever like kind of saw play in a reasonable fashion again, that might be a thing that happened, and it's interesting to see that here. Not a
yeah,
command card you see often. I guess if we want to just quickly go over what that card does.
yeah.
Um
I mean, it's a 3-pip.
it's
It's
a
treated as a
it's a
2-pip
yeah.
for command hand building purposes. Uh, Dooku gains an aim and a dodge, and then the rest of it's not relevant if Asajj is not in your list.
It's a card that
um,
gives Dooku a dodge at the top of the
at the top of the
turn,
turn.
which is relevant.
It's also another cunning card.
It is another cunning card. Though it's a 3-pip cunning
It's a
card,
3-pip
which
count as a
is
2-pip,
like,
which is
yeah.
actually worse than a wash because you're giving up because you only win on the 3-pip tie, and you're giving up a 2-pip to take it. So it's more like a consolation prize that it's a cunning card in this situation, but
Yeah.
it is a card that Dooku can order himself with and give him self tokens. So like if you're all about Dooku, which this list clearly seems to be all about Dooku, then it seems fine, perfectly defensible.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
It's going to be better than
Um,
push for you in that situation.
Definitely. Particularly when you don't really have like other focus units. It's worth noting that I think that the order control on this list is actually pretty fine, I think, because Like maybe I don't know. He's got improv plus the B1s are always going to have orders from the T series. So really, like your bag is going to be like,
You can
I
also
guess,
bounce the B1 chain to the Magnus
or the T
or
series,
the T
right?
series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
you've got like the Geos, the Black Sun, and then like either the Magna or the T series in the bag, and like worst case scenario,
Yeah.
which is
And then you've
fine-ish.
on a few turns you've got a card order to hand out to either the T series or the Magnus, and then you've got perfect order control.
Yeah.
So it's really just like the Dooku 1 pip turn, your ambush turn,
Yeah.
and the Sith
This
roll
is the
rule
rule. Yeah.
are your turns where you've got that slightly messy token bag. But yeah, it's interesting. I, I wish Dooku were cheaper and that you could fit more in here, but I could also see how this list could catch people by surprise and cause some problems. I feel like people have kind of forgotten what Dooku does.
Yeah, and I also think the combination of Dooku's command cards and scatter specifically,
Yeah.
um, I don't think people are used to that. People are never used to it whenever I see Operative Vader like scatter something out
Hmm.
and being able to do it with Geos and then follow up with Dooku is significantly more scary.
Yep.
So I definitely could see people just like, oh, I just lost a really valuable unit basically for free because I didn't understand how this interaction worked really.
Yep.
So definitely could see that.
Yep. Totally. All right. Well, that was Iron Wells. Should we talk about the UK GE GT?
I'm not sure we can, Kyle. I'm
I'm-
honestly not sure we can because our friends across the pond apparently don't know how to fill out tournament stuff. There's like there's a top 8 cut and you can't tell who won the thing.
yeah, so there's actually two separate tournaments.
Yeah.
There's the Star Wars Legion at UKGE, which I presume is the first part of the tournament, and then there is the UKGE Top 8 cut, which
Mhm.
includes the top 8 from the previously mentioned event. So presumably this is essentially two separate tournaments for the same event, done like TTO style,
Yeah.
which is, I guess, fine. But the you guys didn't finish like putting in the top 8 results.
So we have no idea what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was either Ali Dyer, who is the defending world champ, or Joff Port Jeff. Sorry, not Joff. Jeff Port. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name again. Um, it was one of those two gentlemen because those are the ones that won round, I guess, round 2 of the top 8. But we don't know any more than that. So if you were in that, please tell us. Congrats to one of those two guys, I guess.
I'm sure Timbo
Um,
will let us know since he was there at some point, but
yes, Timbo also played, also made the top 8,
made the top 4.
made the top 4, and then lost to Jeff.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll hear his experience about that possibly next week. He was running some Empire Inquisitor thing,
Mm.
I think.
So it was bad, is what you mean.
uh, not necessarily. Look,
Yes, necessarily. Don't start with that shenanigans.
I'm not sure I would run it his way. I am still slightly intrigued by Inquisitors, especially if aggressive Force users are doing a thing again. Like if that Dooku list ran into Tim's list, they would be 100% screwed. Like not particularly close. Um,
Maybe
I-
I don't know.
you can't get Dooku in against 2 Inquisitors. That's like
Why Duke just kills them.
not if he just gets force pushed into a zillion Stormtrooper shots.
I guess. I don't know.
Uh, yeah, I feel like that is a misconception because you know as well as me that most lightsaber fights are not won by the lightsabers.
I think while that is true, I think Dooku is a rare exception to that rule.
That's fair. I mean, Makashi is not nothing.
No, no, it is not.
Um, but
Particularly when you're attacking 5 health force users.
yeah. I mean, look, Fifth Brother has 6.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess.
and Sister should have like 6 dodges based on how this list is set up, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, anywho, yeah, he was playing some Inquisitors. Manitoba is flatter than Cambridgeshire. I don't even know what that means. Is that
That's got to be a Commonwealth joke.
okay? That's
We
the
don't
name of the
understand.
list. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Ollie was running his world's list basically, and then Jeff was running something else.
Jeff was running at Jeff again. Congrats for for doing your thing. I don't know what this is.
Yeah. Well, the
uh,
title. Let's highlight the title of this list because I think it speaks volumes here.
yeah,
You might win 1 or 2 games, but that'll be it. I assume this is something that somebody else from Team UK told Jeff before this tournament, and then he
yeah.
thus titled his list.
Yeah, I don't know. It's Din, R2D2, Fleet Troopers, 2 Rebel Vets, 2 Mark IIs, an Ewok Skirmisher unit, a Swoop Bike Rider unit, an FD Laser Cannon, an X-34 Land Speeder. Um, hey,
I mean, the land speeder has an ion. That could be annoying versus EXD. R2 and a land speeder is just generally annoying.
yeah, I no
Yeah,
doubt. It's just
it's very eclectic.
yeah, it's it's like one of those take one of everything challenges, it feels like a little
Yeah,
bit.
a Highlander list.
Yeah.
I think no, this is not actually officially a Highlander list because he
No.
has 2 CM93s.
Yeah, and 2 Mark IIs, yeah. But
Well,
it's
core units I think do not count, or maybe it's just core box core units. I don't remember the actual Highlander rules.
oh, okay. All right.
But either way, it's not because he has 2 CM93s. So
Yeah.
but it's very close to an actual Highlander list. I mean, you know what Din Djarin works against with his Zanban? Commandos and Obi-Wan. I
Yeah, I mean,
don't know if it's good to like pick up 1 commando a turn without them being able to use their stuff, but it's a thing.
it
It bypasses all the things.
yeah, I guess. It's fine, I suppose. You're still paying 150 points to like slowly delete a 75-point unit.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Jeff. Let us know how you used Din because that's a lot of points.
I mean, this says to
That's a lot
me,
of upgrades on Din.
I don't think we need to ask him. He's got tenacity and comms jammer on his
Okay.
Din.
Yeah.
I think it's clear what's going on here.
Yeah, the Amban there is for the immobilized tokens and not for the undefendable ranged, not ranged attack.
Yeah.
So
this
yeah.
This is melee Din.
Yeah,
sure.
melee Din. That's fair. All right. Well, yeah, so that was a thing. Let us know who won that tournament. Team UK, please.
Fill out your tournament forums, people.
Yeah, finish putting in the game uplink stuff. So yeah. Yeah, that was a grand tournament, the first actual official grand tournament, which means we got photos of the prizes alongside basically an article that listed said prizes.
Yup.
Which are the prize wall prizes from Worlds.
So to be
With like what, the round counters? Is that something that we didn't see at Worlds?
so I guess I want to be a little bit more specific than
Okay.
that. Because they're not it's not just like it's not the prize wall. To
Okay.
be clear, there is no prize wall. The prize wall will
Sorry,
be
yes.
at I think they've listed like Gen Con and
yeah.
like presumably like Adepticon next year and stuff like that. The way that the GT prize support is that there are
So,
is
but it is the prizes from the prize wall.
the majority of them all seem to be, yes.
Yep.
So for participating in a GT, you get 6 foil cards. They all appear to be the foil line and weight, tax strike, Sithal rule, reckless diversion, hello there, ploy. All of those are available from the prize wall. You also get 2 of each color. Sorry, 2 red attack die, 2 black attack die, and 2 white defense dice, which I think were all the ones that were available at Worlds.
Yep.
Um, they've got a category here that says play it painted, 2 art prints. I don't know what that means. It's like sort of a
Maybe if
like
your whole army's painted, you get art
couple
prints.
art prints. Great, I guess. The top 4 get an acrylic round counter.
I will
Uh,
say that so that is one thing that I'm not gonna on. And not because it's the only thing so far that you've listed that was not available at Adepticon. Um, but because it is a acrylic thing that you use constantly in a game.
That's fair. I've just got a really
which is
cool one
something that we
already.
which is sure I do too, but most people don't because that was a year one high command prize, right?
I'm with you, and I think if it was more than a top 4 prize, I would be a little bit more on board with that. I think that the majority of people that are going to get access to these acrylic round counters are already going to have something because it's kind of locked behind doing exceedingly well at a GT.
That's fair. But I think there are probably a lot of people in that position I mean, there's only 32 of those original year one acrylic round counters.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
The top 2, and I would say this is probably the only thing that I actually care about on here, if this is what I think it is. They're calling it play area bumper mats. I think these are the sidebars.
do you get one?
It just says play area bumper mat.
Okay, because
I hope that they're not the 3x3 ones because that would really suck. Um, but we definitely didn't. I don't think we saw 6x3 ones at Adepticon. That was one of the problems with the prize support there. And yeah, so my hope is that this is a 6x3 at least, but I guess we'll see. And then first place gets a trophy, which is pretty standard overall.
okay. Just as an update,
Yeah,
because I found it not in game uplink, but as I was looking for prize photos, it looks like the Rebels won. So Jeff won.
nice,
The
crazy
actual
list,
thing.
crazy. This is the way list.
Yep.
Nice. Is there a picture out of curiosity in whatever you're looking at? Was there a picture of the bumper mat?
That's what I'm looking for.
I see.
Yeah, I found the winner as I was looking for a picture of the bumper mat.
Okay.
I don't yes, there is a picture of the bumper mat. It is the 3x3.
Okay, sweet.
Sorry,
So
not the 3x3. It is the 3 foot long one. I guess it's 3x1, but
sure, it is for a 3x3 board.
yeah, I hope that they hand out more than one to each player because you
Uh,
can't.
that seems unlikely, Kyle. I don't think I think you are asking for way too much logic here.
I mean, that's 25% of your bumper needs.
Look, I don't know. I'm very unhappy with this prize support personally. I think yeah, that's really all I got to say. I'm unhappy with it.
Well, I remember. So I think to fully flesh out this topic, we need to go back to the grand tournament announcement
Yeah,
post
absolutely. I'm with you. I'm with you.
where they did not explicitly state, but strongly implied that the money that they were saving from giving people plane tickets and lodging to Worlds was going to be applied to support these grand tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Um, now, a lot of people inferred that that meant that there would be more prize support at these, or at least, because essentially what they said in this article is that supporting a GT was close to the cost of sending one player to Worlds. And the only way that makes sense, since they're not sending staff to most of these GTs, is if that money is in prize support. So, one player's travel is worth probably about $2,000 on average if you do plane ticket and lodging, particularly the international players.
Yeah.
Um, I, this doesn't look like $2,000 worth of prize support to me. I wasn't necessarily
This
expecting
doesn't
that.
look like $400 worth of prize support.
Right.
Just so we're clear, look, we've been like pretty involved in the Legion sphere for a while. We kind of understand how much money it takes to acquire things for events to put into prize support. Fifth Trooper's done a lot of that sort of thing over the years. This ain't $2,000, that's for sure.
No, I will say, as far as official prize support is concerned, like if you just look at this in a vacuum, kind of outside the context of that GT announcement, outside the context of them, no longer supporting a world circuit, like this is actually pretty decent prize support in terms of quantity. I think we can argue about whether the dice are great, but the other stuff, and the acrylic round counter is great. The other stuff, I think you could debate whether like that's something that people value in sufficient quantities.
Yeah, I don't.
I guess
I,
my point is, for me, it's more about how grossly inconsistent this was with the expectations that they created.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the other, what I would kick in there is that, I think that this Rise support is basically like it's fairly similar to the FFG prize support back in the day.
Yeah.
I think I don't think it's like crazy off base, but yeah, I think overall, I think that there was kind of a heavy implication that money was being reallocated. And it doesn't appear that that actually occurred.
Yeah, and I think even last year people were kind of surprised that they continued doing the travel support thing. I certainly was. I would have totally respected if they were just like, look, this is too expensive. We're not going to do it anymore. And just left it at that. Like that, like people respect being straightforward and honest. And I feel like the GT announcement was a little bit misleading in creating expectations around prize support that frankly is not what we're seeing. The fact that it's like literally the same prizes that were available on the prize wall at Worlds. Um,
And I want to be, I want to just like chase that a little bit farther, because what was at Worlds was probably enough to support all of these GTs. Like the extra stuff they had at Worlds,
Yeah.
like in the buckets that was already printed, that they didn't have to pay for because it was already,
or at least they paid for last year or whatever.
when they paid for it
Yeah.
last year or whatever. Like that print run was way done. Like the idea that this is like, I don't know.
I feel like it also cheapens it a little bit, and that like it means that the world's prizes were not exclusive
Yeah,
and won't be.
absolutely.
In fact, I think you can get a lot more stuff going to these GTs than you could at Worlds because, this is, I think somebody did the math that if you exclude the ridiculously ticket expensive bumper mat, this is something like 150 tickets worth of prize support. Maybe it's if you include that. I don't know. Anyway,
The participation stuff alone was like you had to like win all your games like day 1 and day 2 of Worlds to be able to pick up all that stuff. Like,
yeah.
and you just get it for showing up to this. I, like, yeah, that's another aspect of this that now I'm getting mad about, as we're saying. It's look, it is what it is, I guess. I just, I don't know. There seems to be a lack of consistency in the messaging, and
Yeah. I think it is 150 tickets actually. I'm looking over the list now because the foils were 20 tickets each and a set of 2 dice was 10.
yeah,
So the participation prizes alone would have cost you 150 tickets at Worlds, which would have required winning 15 games.
right, which
Which
was absurd.
I don't think you could even do scheduling
You
wise.
could if you like
If you were like
played
playing in the middle of the
unconventional in
night,
the leagues, yeah.
yeah,
Um, but it was not realistic.
yeah, you do the tournament during the day, and then you go do your quote unquote do your unconventional warfare games, like when you wouldn't otherwise supposed to be sleeping.
And look,
Yeah,
it's great that we're people that wouldn't have access to these cool promos normally are potentially getting access to them. I'm happy for that. I think it's cool, but um I don't know. Uh,
yeah. For me, it's all about the expectations they set. If they just came out and said we're not paying for travel anymore, but hey, we're gonna make it so that the great prize support that you saw at Worlds is gonna be available to everyone that attends the GT, and just said that and leave it at that. Like, I mean, I think people would have respected that. I certainly would have, but because I think like this, like you said, this is pretty consistent with like an FFG level prize support, which
yeah, I
is
mean
which is fine.
it's
It's
fine. It's not great, you know. I definitely think the oh I this is what I'll say. It is consistent with FFG support. However, it in material, it is consistent. FFG had a much better um like the cards for every season were always different. They were always cool and new. Like you got if you went to a special event like Worlds, like they had different promos cards for
yeah,
you, right? Like they were
they were unique to the events
they were
and
unique
the
to
level
the
of the event.
yeah, and that I think is really kind of what set that whole prize support structure kind of apart. Yes, this is the same in physical material if you disregard the fact
Yeah,
that it's just the same all the time. Um, which I think is yeah, my problem with it. But anywho, that's the GT prize support stuff, I guess.
yeah,
Hashtag moving on. I don't know.
yeah. Whelmed. Hashtag
Yeah,
whelmed.
yeah, I mean, I
It
just wish that it wasn't set up to make us feel like we should have been expecting something to look forward to because this ain't it.
Yeah, instead of the same thing that most people got already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. Whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tell us about Yoda Commandos, Mike. Sell me on either Commandos or experimental droids for the tournament at the end of June.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, all right. So switching gears here. So, um, up until the last like week or two, my experience with Commandos was almost exclusively playing against them, which
Okay.
was frustrating. The unit is super cracked. I don't know what else to say from a playing against it perspective. Um, Playing with it though is a very different experience. Let me tell you.
Enlighten me.
Yeah, man. I just look. It is a weird sensation to be able to like set up your guys to alpha strike like three different units um in the deployment step and not worry about them dying at all. And like the things that it allows you to do as far as just like setting up your game is wild. Like the creativity that you're able to kind of like build into the deployment step is uh, uh I've been looking for something like this for a very long time.
Is this basically because Katarn removes the risk associated that with infiltrating that would otherwise be there?
So twofold, Katarn and I was playing Yoda, so I was basically just like turn one luminosing, which is roughly equivalent to 5 aim tokens.
Yeah.
um
Not
because you're
roughly equivalent, it is, right?
yes, yeah.
It's
I mean,
literally
you only get access to four on any given unit off the jump,
sure.
but
Okay. Only four.
whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you can shoot and immediately move back, and there's like not really a cost to doing that. You also can just shoot and recover if you want.
Right.
And then like guidance the unit back with Yoda, which obviously is like a little bit more of a Yoda trick, but you can also shoot, move back, and then guidance them back again and like be completely safe, you know. And the other thing is that Yoda allows you to continue to like set up the RPS fire support shenanigans to like support the clone commando Alpha Strike. And it just man, I don't know. It allows you to I've never set up more aggressively as a clone player in my life.
Did you have recon intel on your
I had
RPSs?
I had recon intel on two of them, yeah. And it's gonna be a little bit of a drug for me, I think. Moving forward. I don't know. I The commandos are far more flexible. They're way more flexible than I thought they were gonna be. Obviously they're like a flexible unit, but they just hit like trucks. And
Are you talking about which bull are you talking about? Range
all
four,
of
range
them.
two?
The
All of them?
answer is
Okay.
all of them. Frankly, I know that on paper that maybe doesn't, I don't know, feel like the case, but frankly, range four, you're going to consistently like kill two models
Yeah. And
generally.
you might even get open shots since you can infiltrate.
Oh, I mean, on the Alpha Strike, I just like I'm like, yeah, I ate your Stormtrooper unit, like, and I didn't fire support. Yeah, it's just like, yep, I rolled 4 hits because they're all red dice, and I spent one of my 5 aims on Pierce. Like, yes, your Stormtroopers are down to the heavy or unit leader. Congratulations. Um, and that's just really powerful. If you fire support them, they'll just eat a whole unit by themselves. And not by themselves, but they'll eat a whole unit in one attack.
Yep.
It's like having arcs. It's like fire supporting arc snipers, except you have more dice. You don't have to worry about failing saves because um you don't fail saves really, and if you do, you only ever take one model as a casualty. And let's be honest, even if the opponent goes through all the trouble of eating through guitar and the shields and making, committing their basically entire turn to shooting them, at the end of the day, they killed a unit that's cheaper than a core unit.
Yeah.
And there's no way you didn't trade up because they're cheaper than everything else.
They're cheaper than a Republic Core unit.
Yes, they're cheaper than most things they will be shooting at.
And yeah, I mean, they're also cheaper than vets and shores.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And any core unit that's like worth their salt right now, they're cheaper though.
yeah, they're basically a 4-man strike team.
I After playing with them, I don't feel like that. They're a 4-man full arc.
I
And
just mean in
they're
terms of their cost point.
sure. That's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah. But honestly, they do more damage than full arcs. Frankly. They do more damage consistently, at least
Over time.
over time. And the
Yeah.
range 2 pool, I think, is actually uh it's on par or better if you're firing with the armament, the 2 black, I think. The fact that you've got your surging basically is a big deal.
Yeah.
And you don't require any token support. 75 points versus 97 plus support is just a world of difference.
Well, that's the thing too about them versus like almost literally every other Republic unit, or at least every other clone unit, is they have all the tools built into their kit without needing to get it from anywhere else.
Yeah, I also think like I could see just playing one. Like I think you obviously should be playing 3, but I definitely think like you could play 1 and be okay with it. Um, like if you don't have access to 3, like it's definitely not a unit that you have to take 3 of if you don't want to. Like you can definitely just take 1 and set up alpha strikes with them and be happy, you know. Um, You should take 3 because they're probably they're definitely, I think, the most efficient unit in the game.
It's quite a statement.
It is, and in classic Mike fashion, it's not even close. But I don't know.
So,
Yeah.
so the key question, not just for me, but probably for lots of other people, does this change the experimental droids matchup?
So I haven't played it yet. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Um, I think it could. Um, I think the world in which it changes the matchup is that because the commandos can infiltrate aggressively, you can actually sort of take the fight to EXD as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah.
Most of the time, EXD is the one that's boxing you into a corner. And the commandos sort of allow you to set up a situation where you might be able to eat through the shields and actually like kill a BX model or two just off the jump, start making them spend their resources immediately. And if you can like trade a commando unit for like a BX squad early, I like again, you're just trading up, right? Um Maybe. I think the answer is maybe.
Okay.
I don't know yet. But I definitely think uh it's possible for sure. They are they're much better than I thought they were going to be. And I thought they were going to be very good. Like after playing against them like 10 or 12 times, I was like, yeah, this unit's pretty good, but I feel like I kind of like understand it and like figured it out and I'm like this I think I know how to beat this unit and it'd be okay. And then I was able to like put it in my own hands for a game or two and I was like, "Oh, I haven't even begun to explore what this thing can do yet." And it's a unit that it breaks all the rules. It breaks all the rules. It breaks the deployment rules. It breaks the defensive rules, and it just hits like a truck. In addition to those two things, and it's just super cheap, So I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to being able to figure out all the cool things you can do with it. I will I will say that on paper when it came in, it was originally came out, I was like, this unit looks kind of lame, because it was like this looks like a range 4 firing platform, and that's like all you're ever going to be doing with it. And I don't think that's actually how it plays on the table, in fairness. Unlike the range troopers.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, Empire.
sorry, Empire. But yeah, they're really good. And they like synergize amazingly with my favorite condition in the game, which is supply drop. Supply drop is absolutely busted for them.
Yeah.
You're ripping like Bactas out, which are already good for Republic, but which are
Yep.
especially good for commandos who are only ever taking damage in like ones, right?
Yep.
And additionally, there's is it precision scopes and field scanner, which you get back when you recover, just like synergize so incredibly well with them, in addition to like hollow projector
Yep.
triggering target, the whole 9 yards. It's just camouflage is like stacking on top of the shields. It's just and on top of that they get to just infiltrate for free onto the tokens. So
Infiltrate is a really strong ability that historically has been reserved for units that are fragile, with
yeah.
for I think obvious reasons, or reasons that are now becoming obvious to everyone, whereas previously they might not have been. Um, yeah, I mean, being able to infiltrate a unit where the first time you shoot it, it's impossible to kill more than one model. Like, it's just so many. That's incredibly forgiving, whereas previously infiltrate was like a high skill cap thing. But B, it also makes it like if if you're infiltrating for an alpha strike, there's literally like nothing you can do except base that unit in melee, which you're not going to be able to do if they're range 3 away from your stuff.
Yeah, and generally they're like they're farther than range 3 generally, you know.
Right.
They're like range three and a
Range three
half
and a
or
half.
whatever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you know, and it's like, yeah, you can move shoot them, but then you're in range of the entire enemy army, and like that sucks too,
And you've only
you
killed
know.
one model, which
And
is
maybe.
right. Maybe you've killed one model. And that's the thing, is like an alpha, the space to counter an alpha exists before they do something with that unit, which means that you have one activation to counter the alpha.
and
Um,
and they have
which is
three
and then you
alphas.
can
There's
right. Yeah.
you know, and if you shoot the thing that is gonna alpha you, they just go with something with one of the other fully intact alpha units, and you still get to eat something, you know. And it's just because there's, you know, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of, I just like, in contrast to a lot of the like, I mean, what the only other infiltrated units we really have are like ISF and Pathfinders, right?
Yep.
I guess we've sort of seen some of this with ISF, like way back in the day with, you know, like
Tactical strike.
tax strike, triple bike lists, kind of like,
But
but
there's stuff against tax strike. There's lots of things against tax strike actually. There's command
well,
cards because
yep.
tax strike requires a face up to work, right? So
You,
there's like
you
stab
can't play,
comms, there's
a
pin
one
down.
pip.
Yeah, you can't play one pip. Um, there's also the fact that like if you manage to go before the ISF, you can just kill them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean that's a thing. You can kill the special forces, right? And
Yeah.
commandos are just it's very hard to kill them.
Well, it's literally impossible the first time you shoot them.
Yeah, and God forbid the first time you shoot them, this is the worst feeling in the world. I think maybe not the worst. It's one of the worst feelings I've had playing this game. Is the first time you land a large attack on the commandos, and
They only blank one anyway.
no, they just make all their
Oh
saves.
yeah. Well, that would obviously that's worse. Yeah.
Well, yeah, yeah, and you're like, oh God, like now, like it's just like,
I didn't even make them burn their armor. Like the next time I shoot them, I'm still gonna only kill maximum one
whoa.
unit.
And I still have to invest a large attack in it to
Yeah.
even like get them to burn the armor, you know? And it's just like, it feels so bad. Um, and as soon as you get somebody in there like Yoda or Padme or Kenobi who can take those situations and make them like 100% type situations because they're sharing dodge tokens or guardian in or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. Uh, I think I've talked a lot about it with our like local play group, which, and EXT is obviously like still, I think, the big bad in the room, but I do think commandos are gonna keep. I don't know how other lists are gonna like mess around with commandos well, frankly, against well played commandos. I could see people kind of like blundering their commandos if they don't know what they're doing, but um even like poorly played commandos are gonna be good.
I mean, it's the first unit that has an ability that like there's literally no way to get around except to just make it get used.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
you got to be able to get into melee with them. That's
Yeah,
that's
right. I
that's like
guess.
that's the way around it. Um,
But in a world where melee is like the only counter to something, that's
Traditionally not a super weakness. You know,
right.
and you know, even if you get into melee with them, like their melee attack is like
It's a Wookiee.
they're 75-point Wookiees, and they
Yeah.
roll the same dice. Obviously, they don't have duelist, but uh, you know,
But
that's
yeah,
really not that big
it's
a
double
deal.
black per model.
Yeah, often critter,
It should usually be
surging to
crit.
crit, you
Yeah, because
know.
they're at least gonna be on their own token, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe you can avoid the offensive ones they place, but they should definitely be on the one that they put where they're going to be.
I have yet to have a game where you can avoid the offensive tokens.
It covers
Um,
2 tokens covers a large area.
it's so brutal. You just kind of have to accept that they're gonna get critical against you and move on with your life. Like I think if you allow people to kind of like get in your head about like playing around the tokens is just kind of wrong. You just have to the unit has critical two. Treat it like commandos just have critical two written on their weapons. Ignore the tokens and move on.
Yeah, because like usually you're going to be able to place those 2 tokens in such a way that if your opponent is avoiding them, they're not
they're not
engaged.
playing the
They're not
game.
in it. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I mean it's it's a lot of real estate. And when you're able to place them close together, it's like being able to place 2 mind tokens that have far less um kind of like crushing rules about where they're placed,
right, and
um
they never go away. Like you can
and
trigger a
then
mind token and get rid of it
right.
so that it ceases to be a problem. I mean, think about how frustrating it is for you when you're trying to clear a mind token and you come up with a blank and you're like, dang it, I have to keep worrying about this thing.
Yeah.
That's
I
the case
double
with
move with this unit just to get it to go again.
right.
It's like,
Yep. All right.
um,
Well, maybe you've talked me into at least painting my commandos first.
they're so fun. I will say, yeah, it's the most fun I've had playing a unit in a very long time. Which I think says a lot. Um,
I think the same is true for me of experimental droids. Um, but and I think that there will be less people playing that in this tournament.
yeah,
I think there will be a lot of commandos, but
yeah, I think generally speaking, I think based on the tournaments we kind of talked about today and just general consensus around the community is I think people are trying to like avoid playing EXD if they can help it, kind of. It's kind of like oh, you're playing EXD, you're like that guy. I want to be very clear, there's nothing wrong with being that guy.
yeah, I
Um,
I intend to potentially be that guy.
yeah.
So
But I definitely think it's kind of got
it's got voted off the island.
yeah.
The same thing kind of happened with Tauntauns for a little bit, where they won a bunch of tournaments. Everybody knew that they were great, and people were just like, you know what? Uh, Especially in an environment like this where we're kind of at the beginning of a quote unquote season, people are like, look, we know it's good. Um, like there's nothing to prove by playing it really. Uh, we're just gonna try and experiment and see what else is out there.
Yeah.
And then if we're in the same meta environment a year from now when we're doing worlds or whatever again and like everything's on the line again, then maybe people come back to it. But yeah, we've seen similar things with quote unquote meta lists in the past where like nothing changes except that people are just kind of sick of it and there's nothing left to prove with it. So
And man, if we don't get a points update by this time next year, I'm gonna be a real sad camper, Kyle.
they said every 2 years, maybe, Mike. So I don't know. I don't actually. I mean, we're only a year into that timeline.
I'm sorry, did
Technically.
they say or did they imply 2 years? Because now I have to watch out for the difference, apparently, because we're playing coded keyword like code words and all of the messaging.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little bit of a game of telephone. I think they actually said 18 to 24 months,
Okay, all right.
but they also previously said quote unquote as needed, which could be interpreted in a lot of different ways. So,
Oh, implying that maybe it's needed right now. Who knows?
or then maybe that it's needed less often than every 18 to 24 months.
Man,
So,
leaving stuff open for interpretation. Oof, big oof.
yeah, I know some of that is necessary in the business, but I'd appreciate if they would just come out and say some stuff sometimes. Anyway, okay. Any further thoughts?
No, I'm in grinding games mode. So I like pinged our group chat today at like 4 o'clock. I was like, who can be at the store in an
Yeah.
hour? Of course, the answer was no one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, somebody asked me if I could play a game tomorrow, and that was not enough notice for me. So,
Yeah. But
unfortunately,
I'm definitely I am a bit hyped between this and Bad Batch on its way. I think Republic. I don't really want to say it's about to have a heyday because I feel like we've kind of, I don't know, been there for a while now.
yeah.
But things just coming up Millhouse on the Republic front lately.
Republic is like the sun, and it was briefly blocked out by the experimental droids slash bus eclipse, and now the moon has moved back to its previous position. We're back to the sun shining again.
Yeah, the sun never sets on the British Empire is what they say, right?
Yep,
Is that the lingo?
that is a phrase. Um, yeah, sadly, that does not apply to Josh in our War Room game. Sorry, Josh.
Ooh, ooh.
We almost made it. We almost made it,
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
kind of set me up for that one.
I
So
think I did. I think I
anyway,
did.
all right. We are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Mike.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.